Welcome. In this video, we break down the SMSF borrowing structure diagram, the visual guide that shows exactly how trustees, bare trustees, and lenders connect when your super fund buys property. Stay with us to avoid costly compliance mistakes and protect your retirement savings.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're looking at a visual map that could, quite literally, save your retirement fund from a complete disaster. We're talking about the SMSF borrowing structure diagram. If you've ever thought about using your superannuation to buy a property, trust me, this is the one blueprint you absolutely cannot afford to ignore.
Just imagine you're Sarah, right? She's this confident, super prepared property investor down in Melbourne. She did all her market research, spoke to a mortgage broker, and she was literally holding the pen, ready to sign the loan documents for her very first SMSF investment property. But right before she put pen to paper, her accountant stopped her cold with one chilling question. He asked, "Have you seen the structure diagram for your limited recourse borrowing arrangement?"
Well, Sarah hadn't seen it. She just kind of assumed the standard legal paperwork handed to her covered the whole shebang. But here's the thing. Navigating the complex SMSF legal maze blindfolded, that can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Seriously. Assuming the paperwork is just standard procedure is a really dangerous trap for beginners. Understanding exactly how the money, the assets, and the legal entities all connect is absolutely essential for your protection.
So here's our roadmap for today. 1. The costly assumption. 2. Decoding the LRBA. 3. Mapping the key roles. 4. The 6-step asset flow. 5. Crucial mistakes. And 6. The pros and cons. Let's get into it. Starting with Section 1, the costly SMSF assumption. Moving right along to Section 2, decoding the LRBA structure. Okay, so the absolutely crucial mechanism we need to define here is the limited recourse borrowing arrangement. Most people just call it an LRBA. Now, this is the only legal way your self-managed super fund can borrow money to acquire a single eligible asset. And I really want to emphasize this point. This specific arrangement, it's a strict legal requirement under superannuation law. It's not just some optional nice-to-have setup. And what does limited recourse actually mean for you? Well, it means if you default on the loan, the lender absolutely cannot touch your other super fund assets. Basically, if the property investment goes south, your cash, your shares, all your other investments safely tucked inside the SMSF remain completely protected. They are behind a solid legal wall. That built-in limitation is literally the cornerstone of this entire strategy.
All right, Section 3, mapping key roles. Let's look at who does what.
Now, what's really interesting about this part is the separation of ownership. This is honestly the most common trap for beginners. You have the holding trust, which is often called a bare trust custodian. They hold the legal ownership. That simply means their name is literally the one stamped right there on the property title deed. But the SMSF trustee holds the beneficial ownership. This means your super fund actually gets all the real benefits, like the rental income and the long-term capital growth. The holding trust is really just a separate legal entity created to hold the asset on behalf of your SMSF until the loan is fully paid off. It's basically a placeholder. Then, of course, we have the lender. They provide the actual funds. But as we said, their reach is strictly limited. They only secure their interest against the specific asset sitting inside that holding trust. Now, the lender can be a big bank or maybe a specialist non-bank lender like Ares Financial. But because of those strict LRBA rules, they absolutely cannot cross that barrier to claim your wider super fund assets if things go completely sideways. Let's jump to Section 4, the 6-step asset flow. Let's actually put this blueprint into motion and walk chronologically through the lifespan of this whole loan arrangement. Step 1 is the application. You find a property and your SMSF applies for a loan. And specialists can often give you a quick conditional approval in just 1 to 3 days. Step 2, and please don't miss this, it's vital. Establish the holding trust before you even think about settlement. Okay, Step 3 is approval and security, where the lender wraps their security strictly around that holding trust asset. Step 4 brings us to settlement. Then, Step 5 is ongoing repayments. This is where your SMSF makes the payments using cash flow, like the property's rental income. And finally, Step 6, full transfer. Once that loan is completely paid off, the asset formally transfers from the holding trust into the SMSF's direct ownership, and the lender's security is just removed entirely. Moving on to Section 5, crucial mistakes to avoid. We've got some serious compliance guardrails here. Now, I want you to ask yourself this. What happens if your structure is non-compliant?
Honestly, it is a terrifying prospect. Getting the LRBA structure wrong doesn't just mean a slap on the wrist or a tiny fine. Oh no, it can lead to massive financial penalties, the complete loss of all your tax concessions, or worst-case scenario, the total disqualification of your fund by the ATO. No joke.
So here are the absolute non-negotiable rules you must follow. First up, it must be a single acquirable asset. You can't just go out and buy a bundle of different properties under one loan. Second, arm's length terms are totally required. This means absolutely no matrates. Every single detail must be treated like a strict commercial business deal. Third, the sole purpose test applies, meaning you definitely cannot buy a cool holiday home to live in yourself. The investment is strictly meant for building retirement wealth. And fourth, independent valuations are needed to prove fair market value. If you violate any of these, you trigger those massive compliance nightmares we just talked about.
Section 6. Pros and cons of an LRBA. Let's evaluate this. Okay, now that we understand the rules of the game, let's look at one of the biggest upsides of the whole thing. 15%. That is the maximum tax rate on your rental income during the SMSF accumulation phase. Plus, any capital gains receive a nice discount if the asset is held for longer than 12 months. And you want to know the best part? Once you finally move into the pension phase, both your rental income and your capital gains become entirely tax-free. Huge, right? But hey, we really have to look at the whole picture here. Sure, you have clear pros, leveraging your retirement savings for asset acquisition, those massive tax advantages we just mentioned, portfolio diversification, and of course that limited recourse asset protection. But look at the cons too. The structural complexity is extremely high, and that brings heavy compliance costs along with it, like annual audits and holding trust fees. Plus, property inherently creates liquidity constraints. Your SMSF absolutely must have enough cash reserves to handle those loan repayments, completely regardless of what the market is doing. You really must ensure you see both sides clearly before making any big moves.
Which brings us to our final takeaway for this explainer. In the world of SMSF investing, what you can't see clearly can definitely hurt you. A well-designed visual diagram isn't just a pretty picture, guys. It is a critical risk management tool. So I highly urge you to map out your own structure diagram. Really ask yourself, do you know exactly who holds legal title? Do you know exactly where the lender's reach stops? Are you truly ready to navigate the SMSF legal maze, or are you just flying blind?